Welcome here. It is President's Day, weekend day, everything. We're yes, salute, yes. We're
I
back for
salute
another
you.
episode. How are we doing? Manny, you said you had a question to ask me. What is this question? What is this question?
First of all, hi everybody. Happy President's Day. If you don't have the day off, drop in their chat who your favorite president is. If you do have the day off, I hope you're listening to this while you're walking your dog or doing kid drop off. But yes, Amani. And for those that are listening and not watching, my question, I haven't seen Amani. I think it's only been a week. But Amani is joining us today with some facial hair that I've never seen before. You look gorgeous, but are you growing this out? It looks great. What's going on? Are you going to be in a role? Are you growing this out for a role in a film or
Yes,
something? What's
I've got to
happening?
gain 20 pounds and grow out a mustache to play a role. No, it's just circumstance. There's no role. It will be coming off probably tonight or tomorrow morning. But thank you for asking. You're very, very observant. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Well, grow it out. Like, would you ever consider, like, what can you completely grow it out or does it just like blotch? Like, what happens when you grow your facial hair out?
It doesn't really kind of look as best as it can because there's some spots above the lip that just still
Oh,
can't get the thickness that we would want to get.
patchy
More.
panda, patchy panda. I gotcha.
Yes. 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 So that's
Well, it looks
that.
good. Looks
Thank
good.
you. I'll keep that in
Hmm.
mind for future potential changes to the look.
Okay. Patching potential. Sounds good.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I think let's see here. We're doing well. We're coming to the middle end of February. Any highlights
Yeah.
from February you want to share? Anything going on?
I mean, well, first things first, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio right now. And I think I'm going to show everybody. I'm at my mom and dad's house. And mom cooks for me when I'm here. I have a snack. I just
Oh,
pulled out for listeners a little applesauce snack pack. So I'm in heaven. I can't be more comfortable than I am right now, mom and dad's
I
house.
love it.
But that's my highlight, getting to be with my family. It's not as cold as everybody thinks it is. It's actually very comfortable. The sun is out, even though it was 15 yesterday. It still didn't feel that bad.
Okay.
Um, and so my highlight is I guess I get to be with my family, and it's my mom's 75th birthday on Friday.
Okay. Okay.
So I get to
Congrats.
be with her, which I'm very excited about. What about you? What's been your highlight of February so far, Money?
Ooh, highlight of February. We had improv class last week on Valentine's Day. So we had lots of funny
Mm-hmm.
little skits about Valentine's, and everyone brought
Oh,
in like
fun.
someone made some, I forget what they're called, but they were really good desserts and bring in
Mm-hmm.
like cards and candy. So that was probably a highlight. And then I got to see one of my closest friends in Palm Springs over the weekend too.
Oh, cool. So last week you told me that on Valentine's Day you make yourself a pan of lasagna sometimes. Did you do that last week?
I did
You
not.
did.
The improv
Oh, you
class.
did.
Yeah, so no.
Okay, okay.
I still have to watch the movie Cutting Edge. Maybe I'll do that this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pick. That's the funny movie there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I did have lasagna because a couple group of us went out to eat. Was that Saturday evening? So I had lasagna there. So I'm halfway there.
All right, halfway there. Let me know how it goes. Well,
All
should
right.
we get to our guest? What do you
Let's get
think?
to our guest. So we have Courtney Stanley that's with us. We were telling the story backstage. I met Courtney through Trevor Louis from Toronto in 2020. And you would think, as you'll see when we're talking, that Courtney and I have known each other for decades because we're very close friends. I really love how she has taken the speaking world by storm. And she's also, which we're going to talk about, kind of I don't want to say like re-engineering kind of her approach for this year. So I'm excited to talk to her about that. It's the first time you all have met each other in person, even though you are friends and follow each other online. So
Jail
let me
hug,
get
jail
that
hug.
sound
Yeah.
effect ready. We're going to bring Courtney to the stage. So there's Courtney right there. Round of applause. We got round of applause there.
Welcome, Courtney.
Yes.
What's up, you guys? It's good to
Yeah.
see
Hi.
you.
Right.
Yeah,
It is
good to
great
good,
to
great
see
to see
you.
you.
I love how Manny loves to go back to the beginning. She's like, so let's go back to the beginning. So I'm going to defer to Manny this time because I have some questions for Courtney, but I'm going to let Manny kind of tee up the conversation. If you're in the chat live, please drop questions here if you want to ask Courtney a question. Uh, what do you want to know about Courtney first, Manny? And then we'll go from there.
Okay, I thought you were going to ask first, so I'm very excited that you bequeathed this to me. Thank you, Money. Courtney, I have to know. I want to go way back machine to your internship at the Country Music Association. I want to hear about the Michigan girl goes to Nashville, back to Michigan, and what that internship was like for you, because we all have an internship story that either makes us or breaks us. So I want to start there.
Well, that's a great place to start. It's been a minute since I've been in Nashville, though. Great city. So I actually ended up interning at the Country Music Association through MPI and Meeting Professionals International. I've been a member since I was in college back at Central Michigan University. And I quite literally stalked their membership list, their online directory, to look for people who had cool jobs, and then just started mass emailing a bunch of people to try to land internships at, somewhere that I thought was really special. So that's actually what ended up opening the door to interning there. And I wouldn't say that it was a make or break experience. I think it was a really eye-opening look into the world of entertainment events. So I think one of the coolest experiences that I had there as an intern was just to be part of the behind the scenes team at shows like, the CMA Awards or festivals like, the CMA Festival. So it was cool to see events produced on such a grand scale with so many people doing so many different things. And I will say, I actually just talked about this yesterday with someone. I got to drive. I was one of the black car drivers to their version of the red carpet for the CMA Awards. And I ended up driving some really big names. So Billy Ray Cyrus was in my SUV, Carrie Underwood, and then two members from Lady Antebellum. So it was just a crazy moment that you would never expect, and just such a special part of that experience.
I love that. I mean, that's the cool stuff about the internships, right? Like, I want to know, what is a grunt thing that you did? Because we all did grunt work or internships, but it's a complicated question. The grunt work that you did that like you still draw on to this day, that you're like, you know what, it sucked then, but I'm so happy I did that because whatever comes after that.
Okay, well, I will say the first task that comes to mind is not something that I am excited to continue, but it was digging. I have this like vivid memory of just digging through boxes of t-shirts for volunteers. There was a lot of volunteer management work that we would do as interns. But I would say for grunt work, I think, there's a lot of spreadsheet action that happens as an intern. And I do have a sick love for organization and spreadsheets. So even to this day, like my personal development goals will be on a spreadsheet that I'll go through every single day and track my progress in. So that's probably the one like nerdy, grunty task that I did at that role that still is with me today.
I love that. But driving the black car is probably the coolest.
Way better. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I love that you capitalized. Like I want the listeners to really highlight that. Like you were a member of MPI when you were in college.
Yeah.
And you took that membership list and you identified the jobs you wanted. You scoured the list. Like, people don't remember, like, those lists are so valuable and the resources are endless for those trade organizations. So be like Courtney, like grab your list, scour it, find the job you want, find the customer you want, find the partner in life you want. Like, those lists are meaningful and they're resources. Like, people don't tap into them enough. So I appreciate that reminder. I think that's awesome. It's what tenacity you have.
Oh, thanks, Mandy.
I don't think I've heard that story before. So thank you for sharing. Now, when we look at, there's a quote that you share both on like your website and some of your literature. It's a Maya Angelou quote. It's like, people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I don't think we ever discussed this, but why does this quote particularly resonate with you?
I mean, first and foremost, I wholeheartedly believe that it's true. I think that the human experience in this life is so much less about the things that we do, and it's so much more about the people and the interactions that we have with others along the way. And for me, I'm really blessed to have been raised by parents who instilled some really beautiful values in me. And one of those being that you truly do need to treat people with love and respect and kindness. And not just that, but also constantly be on the lookout for somebody who might be more on the outside or the outskirts that just needs a friend or just needs a friendly, conversation or smile. So I think from a young age, that was really drilled into me that it mattered. That was really, really important. And then, I'll say that some of the first experiences that I had in my professional life in my first few jobs weren't great. They weren't the best experiences. And I think
Mm.
that quote in particular really does resonate with me in those experiences that I've had, where especially in the more difficult moments working with managers who maybe weren't very nice people or didn't
Mm.
treat you the way you should have been treated, when you leave that experience, that's what you remember. You remember how those people made you feel, and you move on, you heal, and you learn from those experiences. But from that walk and that journey, I also experienced how powerful that type of human dynamic is. So for me, in anything that I do, whether it's in my personal life or it's in the keynotes that I'm teaching, I really truly believe that everybody offers value. Everybody deserves to feel seen and welcome. And so that quote is really meaningful to me.
I see. So now that kind of is
Beautiful.
an interesting segue, but last year you had probably one of your biggest and busiest years in your career so far,
Yes.
and you
Let's pause for a high five for that.
yes,
Thanks,
We bow
Mandy.
to you, Courtney. That's awesome.
Thanks,
yeah.
Awesome.
Queen.
Killed it. Sidebar. Hello, Javier. Good to see you in the chat. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
Um,
Javier.
Hi, Javier.
you also experienced some burnout. So,
Oh,
questions about this. How did you recognize that you were feeling burnout, and how did that change your approach for 2024?
so my gosh. I mean, I think this is such a relatable topic, especially, if we're talking to people who are in the events industry. Burnout is very, very common within our particular space. And for me personally, I think burnout becomes very physical for me. And I'm sure other people can relate to this as well, where it's not just feeling tired. It's kind of the opposite, where I'm so like anxious, like my body is just like constantly having, spurts of adrenaline when it shouldn't be, because of things, just the inability to slow down and take the break that I need, or to do things like, working out or cooking at home, like those things that you just don't have the opportunity to do when you're on the road compound. And for me last year, it was really, really busy, which is a beautiful thing. It means everything is going great with the business side of things. But it was a wake up call, I think, for me in the fall, when my body was just like giving me all these warning signs of, hey, like,
Mm.
we're not taking care of ourselves the way that we need to be. So we're going to like give you some physical cues. And because I am an ambitious person, and I am a hustler. These aren't new signs. So for me, those signs that I've experienced in the past made themselves known last fall. And it was important for me to be able to take a step back and say, okay, like I hear you, and I'm going to make some changes so that I'm making sure that I'm creating balance instead of just constantly driving forward all the time.
I love
Interesting.
that. What kinds of things did you implement for yourself? Like what specific tactics did you do?
So sleep is really, really important. Hydration is too. I think that's something that we neglect, those two things right there. So that immediately become, the top two priorities for me. But then also moving your body more. I think I know, and there's, no shame in taking medication for things like anxiety. Um, However, physical movement has the same impact as a lot of anxiety medications. So whether, you take medication or you don't, or you do a combination of the two, it was important for me to recognize that moving my body would make a huge difference. So doctors say that, if you get your heart rate up for 30 minutes a day, that has the same impact as taking an anxiety medication. So that was one of the biggest changes that I made when I recognized that there was too much fight or flight that was happening. It was too much stress. So I joined a new gym, and Amani knows this. And it's here in Detroit, and it is truly the best. It's run by a woman who's in her mid 30s. It's all women, it's strength training. It's such a great community. And that actually has been one of the greatest game changers in finding a place that I actually wanted to go, where I was around people I really loved, but staying consistent and really watching my body change because of that. And not just physically, but internally with the stress, the anxiety, just watching it dissipate.
What's the name of the gym? Can we give a shout out?
Yes, I would love to. So
Yeah.
it's called Hustle Flow Lab. It is a semi-private personal training gym, and it is mostly strength training, if not all strength training. And it is phenomenal. It's based in Detroit, which is where I live now. And I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for a great community and a really good workout.
Hustle Flow Lab.
Yes, Hustle Flow Lab. Yes.
Yes. I love all
it's
that.
fantastic. Yes.
So
Yes.
hello
Yes.
to
Yes.
Chris in the chat, where Chris says motion creates emotion. So thank you, Chris, for tuning in. Most people would continue to push and really want to hustle even harder. Why did you kind of choose to take a different route, and how do you think that's going to affect kind of your future?
So I think for me, what I have learned so I've run my own business. This is my 5th year of running a business full time. And I think as a business owner, you think of the financial goals first. And I think for the last 4 years of business, especially the fact that I started the business in the beginning of 2020, where the world was really crazy and the business strategy to make money was just much more complicated than it would have been in years past. Finances were priority number one. And that had been my number one focus for the past years of running the business. And I think for me, what I realized at the end of last year is I was busier than ever and the business was more successful than ever, was that I wasn't feeling as fulfilled as I wanted to feel. And I think I had this moment where I just began to recognize that the goals that I was setting for the business were all externally driven. So it was things like, brand development and being recognized as a company and as a thought leader and, meeting my financial goals and crushing my financial goals and, getting booked a lot of times. All of the goals were really external. And for me, I wasn't putting emphasis on the internal. Why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this journey that I've decided to take? And am I on the right path? Do I even like the things that I'm doing right now? And it was important for me to take a step back and to start to identify some of the internal validators or goals that I really wanted to be focused on so that it wasn't feeling empty. Because what's the point then? I could work for anybody then, but I've chosen to create this path specifically to be mission driven. So where's the mission, and am I actually feeling aligned, or do I need to take a step back and reassess?
Interesting.
I love what you just said, because you said the quote at the beginning about people will remember how you've made them feel. But what you also just said just gave me a little light bulb of like, sometimes we're not even conscious of how we feel. Like, we think about personal relationships, but sometimes we don't take into account or we don't value how business transactions make us feel or business actions make us feel. We don't value that as much. So I love what you're saying, because it's in line with really paralleling that quote of like, cool how I make other people feel, but how am I making myself feel by my business goals this year? So what are some of those things that you're doing? Like, what are those actions that you're taking for this year? Courtney 2.0, Courtney 5.0.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say the first thing that comes to mind is I slowed down. So the beginning of the year was really busy. I had lots of business booked already. But after, really January was done, for the past few weeks, the past month or so, I've just taken a step back. And I think it's interesting and it feels really counterintuitive to do this. But in previous years, I'm very goal driven. So at the end of 2019, or 2019, any year, but the end of the year going into a new year, I'm reflecting on what happened last year. I'm setting really intentional goals for the next year. I'm choosing my word for the new year and, very intentionally just stepping into a focused lane without actually taking the time to question, is this really what I want to be doing? And why am I choosing this word? Am I choosing this focus word for the new year because I have to, or because it's actually meaningful to me? And so I took a step back, and Amani and I are part of a speaker mastermind together. And he asked the question, like, what is your word for the year? And I don't have one. I don't have one yet. And it's the first time.
You don't have to have one. You don't have to have one. Yeah.
Like it's the first time that I'm like, I don't want to just choose a word and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
just set goals for the sake of putting something on paper. I really want
Yeah.
to take the time to take a step back, do more meditative work, get into a different kind of therapy, listen to more podcasts, move my body more, like just kind of take the outside and let it be for a minute and go inside and take time to really reflect on where I'm at and what I
Mm.
want.
I love that. Plus, you've planted, Courtney, you've done such a good job. You've planted so
Mhm.
many seeds that even though you're taking time for yourself, you're also letting those seeds grow because you plant just because you're taking a step back doesn't mean the business isn't working for you. Right? The
Oh,
business is still
totally.
working for you because you planted those seeds and now you're giving them space
Yes.
to root and grow and all of that. I love this approach. This is really inspirational.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And I will say
Yeah.
too, I'll correct myself. Instead of saying I'm taking a step back, I'm taking a step forward in a different direction because I really do feel like this kind of internal work is so important. And it's like, if we have one life to live, like don't we want to live it in a purposeful way? And don't we want to be
Mhm.
fully present and intentional about how we're spending our time and how we're serving others, and it's really important work. It's just in a different category.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
most people, when they hear doing the work, they don't quite understand what that is. What are the actions that are involved in doing the work? Can you share some of your maybe favorite activities in terms of doing the work? And this is both personally and professionally, and then ones that you feel are under the radar.
Mm. Well, this is a really big question because I think there's so much that you can put in the professional category. Like, there's always more that you can be doing to, build your brand in different corners of your industry and make a name for yourself and connect with people. Like, there's so much work to be done on that side. So, I'll summarize the professional in one piece of advice, and that's to stay consistent. So, if you are a business owner, if you are somebody who is just elevating your career, you're climbing the ladder, truly the most important thing is to consistently show up. So it's not just doing the work like networking and that kind of thing, but it's being present every single day in the field that you're trying to grow in. So consistency is key, I would say, on the professional side, regardless of what your approach or your focus is. And on the personal side, I think that's going to be different for everybody. But I think, for me, purpose is really important. So I would, in terms of doing the work, I would say starting there and finding some really cool books, podcasts, conversations with other people to just start exploring what you believe you're meant to be doing on this planet. That is going to start to open so many other doors for doing the work. So if it is that so actually, where's my book? So there's this book that I love. It's called Built to Serve. It's by Evan
Mhm.
Carmichael.
Mhm.
And it was a game changer for me when I felt back in 2020, what am I doing? I just quit my job. I'm going full time in a really crushed industry. What have I done? I needed that moment a few
Mhm.
years ago to take a step back and say, okay, what is the foundation of my business? Why am I doing this? That book led me through so many exercises that were so game changing for me to identify what am I passionate about? What are the experiences in my life that have been painful enough to actually change the things that I feel are most important to me? And how do I take those life lessons and those things I care about and serve other people? So, on the personal development side, I would say check out that book for sure, but
Mhm.
start with your purpose. And then from there, doing the work could be anything. It could be going to therapy, it could be journaling, it could be podcasting, reading, starting a show like this. It could literally take any shape or form, but you have to know the foundation before you're able to actually do the work.
Oh, good stuff. I want to dig into women to watch because I
Yeah.
think this is so cool. This is a program you started. So, can you share what is Women to Watch? Why did you start it? How do you? And I don't know if applications are still open. I nominated somebody this year.
Yay. That's
I didn't know
awesome.
anything about it. Amani taught me about it last year, and so now anybody that is
'Cause
lifting other women up is an amazing human. So I'm just curious, like, what is it, and how do people get involved with it, and why did you start it? Three big questions.
Well, first of all, thank you for nominating someone. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And I know they will too. So, nominations are still open. They're open until Friday, through Friday. So, I'll tell you a little bit about it and then definitely go and nominate somebody. So, I started the Women to Watch Awards back in 2021 in an effort to amplify the people who were doing inspiring and impactful work within the events industry. So, for people who aren't as familiar with our industry, it's filled with women. We have so many amazing women in our community. But if you look at top levels of leadership, you don't see that reflected there. It's still very male dominated when it comes to executive roles, the C suite. And for me, as I've grown on my own career journey, one of the most important lessons that I've learned, other than staying consistent, is that you have to be seen in order to be seen. So
Mhm.
if we are able to amplify the women in our community who are doing an amazing job, if we're able to take them up to different levels of recognition of the work that they're doing, it's only going to not only just elevate their career and their journey, but it's also going to have this ripple effect on the rest of our community and hopefully elevating other women to those decision making roles. So that's where this came from. It was truly in an effort to just recognize incredible women that were doing incredible things. And what I think is really special about this program is that it's peer nominated. So
Mhm.
this is not a popularity contest, and we've seen many of these in the industry where, people nominate, there's a list of names, and the people, that are most recognized already in the industry end up winning all the awards. So it's not that. This is purely based on storytelling. It's how has this person impacted your life? How has this person impacted their community? And why is it important for you to show them a little bit of extra love and help amplify the work that they're doing? So
Mhm.
for me, the most special part of this experience is truly being able to read those stories. And some of these stories that come in are absolutely just, I mean, some are heartbreaking, to be honest, like the
Mm.
things that people have experienced and the resilience and grit that they've practiced to move forward. But some of them are also just really uplifting. And you can feel the emotion from the person who's submitting the nomination and how important this other nominee has been to them in their life. So,
Aw.
yes, I can't wait. It's going to be announced. This year's winners will be announced on International Women's Day, which is on March 8th this year.
Awesome.
So stay tuned and nominate.
So
Awesome.
I have to cut you off, Mandy. I didn't
What?
introduce you. I didn't introduce you to you were nominated last year, so you received a nomination. So
Well,
let's give you some flowers there too,
well,
but
thank you. Well,
don't be
thank
coy
you.
about it.
But you did it. I didn't know anything about it until I was nominated. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. But it was awesome. I think what I really like about what you do, Courtney, and I can say this after being nominated last year, is it's not just, hey, you're nominated, here's your award, here's your post on LinkedIn. You build a community, and then
Mhm.
you invite all of these women to interact with each other, to lift each other up, to further help each other engage. And I like, anybody can get nominated for anything and anybody can get their face on something. But I think what you're doing that's really different and really impactful is you're taking action beyond the actual announcement and encouraging everybody to be a part of a community and share with each other. I think that's, and can you share a little bit? I mean, I know I'm
Yeah,
lucky because
yeah.
I'm in the club, but like, can you share what does that look like for people that get nominated and then they are interacting from there?
For sure. And I appreciate you bringing that up too, because that is one of, I think, the best parts of this particular community. So essentially, the winners from the past few years and, future years moving forward are all part of an online community. So we have a LinkedIn group. It's really simple. It's nothing crazy, but it's a place for people to share opportunities to connect with each other or resources. And so, what I've done is I've hosted a number of virtual gatherings for this community, and this the activities that we do are so fun too. It's not like your traditional let's just get on and have a glass of something and chat, which is great, but I try to expose the women to things and activities and ideas and people that they might not typically meet on an everyday basis. So, for example, we had a woman who came in who did a tarot reading, and she did an astrological reading for the astrological new year, so the spring equinox, that kind of thing. And it was just really, it was really interesting, but it was also really meaningful because people came from our community into that experience, and they were sharing the ways that they felt like they needed to move forward in a fresh start kind of way, but also what they needed to release and let go and leave in the past year. So it was just a really, I think it was a deeper way for us to connect. So that was one of the virtual experiences we did. But then we've also done some in-person gatherings too. Last year, when MPIWEC was in Mexico, we did a sunrise gathering, and I am
I saw
not a
that
morning person.
picture.
I am not a morning person. So I tell you, Shelley Williams and Colleen Brzezowski were really wonderful partners in this experience. And when they first asked about doing this at like 4:30 in the morning, I was like, sure, like anything for you. Sounds great. And
As you grit your teeth, that's
it was like
great.
pitch black, you're walking to the beach just like half asleep. But it ended up being the most beautiful moment of that week for me because we just were present. And I think, the sun is rising, the ocean is right there. There were people playing music in the background, and we just had a moment to be together, but be still. And I took so much away from that moment, not expecting to have such an emotional response. I ended up, tearing up and just feeling really grateful to have a moment to be still during, what's typically a really busy week where you're just going from point A to point B. And I think, again, it was like a perfect example of going inside and taking that moment to really just appreciate the experience that we were having together. So that's just one example of, some of the ways that we continue to develop this community and build relationships and support each other beyond just an awards program.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Keep
Yeah.
going. It's great stuff.
Oh,
Agreed.
thank you.
Now we know you get a chance to interact and talk to a lot of younger professionals in the industry. Based on how we're looking at the industry in 2024, and I'll say both meetings and events professionals and then younger speakers too. What advice are you sharing with them in terms of how to, grow their careers, grow their speaking business? What's kind of some advice that you can share with us that we can also share with them?
Well, I love young professionals. I really do. I think they're my sweet spot for sure when it comes to mentorship and just sharing knowledge because, I think the more that we're able to share at the beginning of their careers, the better we're going to set them up to succeed. And so I would say one of the most important lessons that I learned, I think, was not forgetting how valuable my perspective was, even as a young person. Because I think for me personally, when I went into my first job, I went in, I was confident, I was ready, I was excited. I just graduated. I just moved out from Nashville to the Boston area to work for an agency. And I was humbled pretty quickly by just the fact that I didn't know that much. I thought that I did, with education and training, but I think it took me, I think it took me a while to find my voice and to recognize that I did have a lot to offer. I just didn't know everything. And there's this fine line, I think, with young professionals between being, really confident and going in thinking that maybe more than you do, but then also maybe being humbled and needing to just kind of fine tune where you can contribute the most value. So I would say, for sure, remember your value and know what you bring to the table, but also be willing to learn. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I can give to young professionals. And the current state of our industry, if we go more from that perspective and giving advice to people walking into the industry now or starting their career now, I would say that there's so much opportunity. So much has changed in the industry over the past few years because of the pandemic. So many new jobs now exist because of the pandemic. And there's such a need for fresh, young talent within the industry, and there's so much opportunity for that young talent to create even greater change. So I would say it's an exciting time to get into our space. And don't limit yourself. There are so many different types of roles in our world that you probably never heard of that are going to be exciting to explore.
Love it. Great advice. Hello, Stephanie Maurice. Thank you for tuning in. Good to see you. Mandy,
Hey,
over to you.
Stephanie. I want to talk about Dare to Interrupt because I was just talking to one of my girlfriends on the phone who is a chronic interrupter just as a human being. And so we would do this thing with her where we would tell her, hold your finger every time you have a thought, hold your finger up. So we would be in a circle, and at the end she would have like all 10 fingers. We're like, we don't have time to cover all 10 of your topics. But anyways, the word interrupt is interesting. There's a stigma to it, but there's also a power to it. So I just want to hear all about your podcast, or to have you share all about your podcast and where the actual title came from.
Oh gosh, I love this podcast so much. Imani was actually a guest at the end of
I heard,
last year.
I listened to it. The only man, right? Wasn't he the only? Was he the only guy?
Yes. So
Money,
the podcast,
the only,
and he crushed
what
it.
an only.
I know, he did so great too. So the podcast it's a series of interviews with really incredible women from the tourism, events, hospitality industry. And once a year, I bring on a male guest to provide a different kind of perspective, because I think that's really important to have as well. But most of the time, it's just the ladies, and we're having conversations, really open, transparent, vulnerable conversations about literally anything and everything that impacts a woman in business. So the concept for this podcast came from, I just love turning problems into solutions. Like, I see a pain point, I get mad about it, and then I ask, what am I going to do about it? And this
You're
podcast,
like, I'm picking up my machete.
yeah,
I'm doing it. I'm taking
totally.
care of it.
I'm like, it's,
awesome.
I actually find that like getting frustrated about something is one of the best motivators for me to like really want to make a change. So when I first pitched this podcast to Meetings Today, who is my partner, my media partner for the podcast, it came from a place of noticing how frequently women were being interrupted in business meetings, in business settings. And this came from my own experience too. There was one moment in particular where I was in a board meeting surrounded by my fellow peers, and the board chair called me sweetheart when I had shared a perspective, and it was very condescending. It was very much like, well, that's nice, sweetheart, but that's not the way business works. And I was like, wow. And at the time, I was young. I was mid-20s at this point, and I was so shocked that I had no idea how to respond. But I was just like, that is so crazy that somebody thinks that they could speak to somebody else like that in the boardroom. And I noticed that it had happened to a couple other women too. And so it just, it inspired me to do a little bit of research and having conversations, but also, going to Google and just starting to dig around about, what is this interrupting thing that's happening to women when they're in these business settings, these professional settings. And it's a very common occurrence that happens significantly more to women than it does to men. And so for me, again, recognizing that experience, but also the reality that we're still missing so many women at the top, in these C-suite roles, I wanted to create a space that was specific for women to be able to come on this platform and talk about their own life experiences, their, lessons from their business ventures, uninterrupted, where they could freely speak and teach all of our listeners who tune in all these different mentorship lessons, life lessons. So that's really where it came from. And I have to say, so we're in our 5th season of the podcast now. It has been such an incredibly beautiful experience being able to hear these stories from women from all walks of life, all corners of our industry and outside of the industry too. And I personally have learned so much from them, but I've also made a lot of friends through the podcast too. These women are great. They're amazing.
I love that. And Meetings Today, had they ever been approached to be a sponsor of a podcast before? Had they ever been approached to be a media partner? Like, how did that relationship go? Were there tweaks along the way? Are there still tweaks? Like, how does that work for you and for them?
So meetings today, I had a relationship with them, with a couple of their writers. And, I'd been interviewed maybe once or twice by them, and just, had a good rapport with them. And so when I had this idea, I went straight to them and pitched the concept, and they really loved it and they adopted it and have been fully supportive as a partner since the day that it was pitched to them.
Awesome.
They do have other podcasts that they run internally, but this is the only podcast that they have with somebody that doesn't work specifically for the company.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I've listened to their other podcasts before. They're great. They do a great job. I just, as we have a live show and we listen to others, everybody thinks podcast world is saturated. It's really not. It's very infantile. It's very new. And there's so many interesting structures that are out there. So I'm always just curious, is it working? Is it not? How did it start? How's it going? Because I think those are interesting relationships. And I think it helps us all realize, like, it doesn't have to be one way. Like there's so many ways to do the same thing. That here you are, you had a vision, you had an idea, you leveraged an existing relationship. Little did they know, it gets their name out there a little bit more. And now what a beautiful partnership it's been for 5 years. That's great.
Yeah. And I think it's, I do hear that a lot too, where people say it's such an oversaturated market with podcasts. I think that's like such a short-sighted way to look at creating content. And it's not just podcasting. Yeah. It's also, speaking or writing. It's anytime you feel the desire to create content, but then you tell yourself the story that it's already been done. That, I think, holds so many people back from actually creating something. And what they don't realize is that they've lived this unique life experience that not another single person in this world has experienced. And therefore, any content they create will be original to them. And so I do encourage anybody who has a desire to create anything, but feels like, oh, it's been done before, the market's oversaturated. Try it anyway. Do it your way and see what happens.
Yeah. Agreed.
Might have been done, but not by you. It hasn't been done by you. That's the secret sauce. Yeah.
Shout out to Tom Griggs in the chat. Good. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you. Now, Courtney, we come to the time of the show where we flip the script and allow you to ask me and Mandy a question. Any question you'd like to ask. Nothing is off limits. So who do you want to ask a question to first? And what is that question?
Okay, well, the most important question of the day, I need to follow up on, which Mandy asked you at the beginning, Amani. Why are you not going to grow out that facial hair? And also the way that I tried to zoom in on this image so that I could see how long it was.
Yes. So I just don't like it. I just don't like it. It just doesn't really work for me. And then I start to break out. If I grow too much, I actually start to break out and it starts to get red or whatever. So it doesn't really work too well. So yeah, that's probably why. I'm good. I like to keep, and then also like the grays will show up in there. So I like to keep the illusion of a baby
salty
face.
Though.
It is salty. That's the simple reason why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follow-up question, since we're on, we're talking about your beauty and we're talking about your look and your overall vibe. How many sweater vests do you have? I need to see. I need to know.
It's a good question.
I have I think I have around 12 or 13. I need to swap out some to update or whatever. Probably between 12 and 13 or 14. I love the little sweater vest, boys to men look. That's just my steez. Yes.
Okay. Well, we're feeling it. We're always cheering you on with your sweater vest.
We're feeling that sweater vest vibe. Yes, for sure. The purple sweater vest.
Mandy, I want to know, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live? But you could never move again. This is your home forever.
Oh, wowzas. I'm living it. I live in San Diego, and it's I love it there. It suits me. I can be outside, I can be inside, I can be to the mountains, I could be to the water, I can get on an airplane, I can go to a different country. I was funny you say that, because I'm in Ohio right now with my family, which is where I'm originally from. And the girl at the grocery store asked me the other day, I don't know why I'm getting in a conversation with her, but she asked me how long have you lived in California? I said 24 years. And I left Ohio when I was 24. So, and she asked me why. And I said, it just suited me. I can be outside as much as I want to be outside. And there's some culture everywhere I can turn. If I want to just be with family, I can be with family. If I want to be with friends, or if I just want to be alone, like it suits me. And I'm really happy. And I haven't been bored with it 24 years.
That's
So
awesome.
probably boring answer because it's nowhere new, but it's my home for now. It feels really nice.
Okay. And Amani, you just moved to Vegas
Mm-hmm.
a couple months ago. How would you describe living in Vegas in one word?
In one word.
Ooh, you can't use salty.
Yeah, we've already used that.
It's
Don't
already
steal
used.
us. Exactly.
Say underrated.
Oh.
Tell us more. What's
Oh, I can use
underrated?
more than one word.
Well, we've chosen a path, so we're going to go down this path.
Down this path. I just think that a lot of people think that it is just the strip, and there's so much more to the strip. In addition, the restaurants here are phenomenal. I keep finding great ones. There's lots of good outdoor activities like hiking. It's becoming a really strong sports town. So I think people just look at it as like, oh, I'm going to go to the strip. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to be at my bachelorette party, maybe go watch Magic Mike, go to the strip club, stuff like that. It's more
Wait,
to it than that.
you have to wait for me for Magic Mike, though. I was just
I
looking
have
at
not
tickets
going
for
to Magic
Magic.
Mike.
They're only like $50. They're not
You
that
can go to
expensive.
Magic Mike. I have no interest in going to Magic Mike. I will go.
We're definitely going to Magic
Amani!
Mike.
I
We're
will
both
go.
wearing sweater vests, and we're both going to see Magic Mike.
Purple
Okay.
sweater vests.
Yes, definitely purple.
Yes. So that's kind of how I answer that question. What
Okay.
about you for your city? But you have to move to a city, but you can't move ever again.
I think I would choose a Greek island. Yep, I don't know
Why?
which one. I want to be on the water. I want to be in beautiful weather. I want to be somewhere that's small where you just know everybody and great food. I love Greece. I love the islands. So yeah, I would want to take my family with me for sure. They can come, but I just want to I want to be in a beautiful, beautiful place. You can just walk everywhere. Like you never drive. That sounds lovely.
All right.
So we were talking about this backstage before, but I want to bring this back up. What is one thing about Detroit that you want people to know? Like something they may not think about, or something you love about Detroit, you think they'd get a bad rap for. Like, what do you want people to know about it?
So yes, Detroit definitely has a shady reputation for sure. I think when people think of Detroit, they think of violence, they think of poverty, and the city has been through a lot. It has a really rich history, and I think because of that history has cultivated a really phenomenal community and vice versa. I think the community here that has stayed here and the people that have moved here, people like me as well, that community has poured their heart and soul into this city, and that's what you experience when you're here. I think there's a vibe and there's an energy to Detroit that you don't expect, and then you come here and it's the people that you meet that live here that bring that energy, and it's surprising in the most beautiful way. I think for me, one of the greatest surprises of moving here was how rich the arts and music and entrepreneur scene is here. Like there is so much going on all the time with really incredible independent professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners. Like this is a city of business owners, small business owners. And it's been such a joy to be able to experience that, because you learn so much about the culture and the community through the people who are actually building culture and community. And that's Detroit.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
All right. So I get to ask you, I'm curious how your answer has evolved throughout the years that I've known you, 4 years, but still, if we're going to go back and talk to Courtney as she's leaving, she's graduating from Central Michigan University. Are they known as what, the Chippewas? What's your...
Yes, we're the Chippewas. Yes.
Yeah, know my mascot. So, you're leaving there, going out into the world. What advice would Courtney of today give Courtney back then in terms of life and everything?
Know your worth. 100% know your worth. in business and relationships. Like, you've got everything you need inside of you. So own it and don't question it when somebody either projects their own insecurities onto you or tries to make you feel small. That would be number one for sure. I feel like that is one of the most important life lessons that I've learned, and definitely bleeds through the work that I do for sure.
Awesome. Well, I will turn it to Mandy to close us out, and then we will give our thanks and be on our way on this President's Day. Mandy, you want to take us home?
Yes, I have a two-parter taking you home question. Part one is, how can other women lift other women up right now? What is one or two quick tasks or efforts that women can do to lift each other up? That's my first question. Like, lift each other up and support.
I would say number one is speak her name in rooms where she's not, where there are opportunities to introduce her and connect her with other people. For me, as a business owner, that is the number one thing you can do to support my business. And so from that perspective, I also know that that's the best way to support another woman and her business or her development in her career. So that's hands down top answer for that question.
I love that. And I agree with you, because you said it earlier. It's the same rotation of women that keep getting spoken in the room or getting nominated, and find the woman that's not getting spoken about and say her name. I was just say her name. I love that.
Yes.
Okay. For you, how can we lift you up? How can we support you, help you continue what you're doing?
Well, thank you. First of all, I really appreciate you guys having me on the show, because this is helpful too. You're saying my name, you're helping to promote who I am and what I'm all about. So I really appreciate that. For me, my business is really referral based. So if there is somebody out there that is looking for a keynote speaker, that is looking for a moderator, that is looking for somebody to give some training, some workshop on public speaking to their employees, their staff members, say my name in those rooms. Those are the opportunities that I would ask for. And of course, connect with me. I'd love to see the faces of people who tuned in. So LinkedIn, Instagram, my website, Courtney-Stanley.com, all those places. Would love to know who was here.
Tremendous. I feel like I should cue up Destiny's
I love it. Say
Child. Destiny's Child, be like, say my name.
Me
say
too, Lonnie. I went there too.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. We started with the dance. We're ending with the dance. Okay, last thing. Remind everybody how they can nominate a woman to watch, because applications close on Friday.
Yes, applications close on Friday. So go to my website, Courtney-Stanley.com. You'll see it on the blog page. There is a page that's all about what the awards are. You can look at who has been recognized in years past, and you can, of course, submit your own nomination. So that's the easiest way. If you forget that, then follow me at Courtney on Stage on social media. I've been talking about it for the past couple of weeks, so you'll find the links there as well.
Tremendous. We're going to put you back in the green room, but just thank you very much for just giving us some great words to live by, advice, sharing stories. So we love you, and we just appreciate you being here with us. And we're going to continue to support you and say your name as we watch.
I love you guys too. Thank you so much for having me.
Name. Yeah.
Yeah. I should get
Thank you for being here. Thanks for being you.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Round of applause here. Okay. Another great show. Mandy, what do we have to look forward to next week?
Yeah. So we've got a real ringer next week. We're continuing on with the Women in Tourism and Hospitality with Clara Carter, who is the founder of the Women in Tourism and Hospitality Conference, the WITH Conference. And that is here in San Diego at the end of March 28th, 29th. And she's been in the business for a long time. She's the founder of the Multicultural and Diversity Association. She's a meeting planner. She's just a great human. So Clara Carter will be with us next week, next Monday.
All right. So next Monday, please continue to rate and review our podcast. Share it with friends. Make sure you subscribe on the platform of your choice. And we appreciate you watching live, or if you're watching the replay or listening to the podcast. And just thanks for your support. And we will see everyone next week, 4 p.m. on the East, 1 p.m. on the West. Take care, Mandy, and stay safe out there in Ohio. Bye, everyone.
Hey.